Thank you. Thank you. Program Director, ladies and gentlemen, my bit is short, probably and hopefully sweet, so I'm going to get into it as quickly as possible. I've been requested to say something about the reconfiguration of the industry, especially just after the promulgation of the Defence Review, looking at the good and the bad. We don't have enough time, so I don't think I'll be able to cover everything. Suffice to say that maybe let's start with some questions, some issues that are of relevance, critical questions that might need answering one way or another. Hopefully not by Moses, probably by yourself and the whole country. Then we'll look at what does the Defence Review say about some of these things, because as much as we're talking about the strategy, where does it all come from? It comes from the Defence Review. We know that, as you has just indicated, there are so many challenges in the country, especially in the Defence Review, in the defence industry. Somebody has to do something. Are we doing something? Is the country doing something? My argument is that the mere fact that we have adopted the review, that is a good sign. Now, people are going to say there's no money, there's no this and that, but we've started. So we're going to look at that and then move on to look at the other strategic national initiatives in support of the defense industry, and then articulate the way forward. At some point, the Defence Review, I've worked with Defence Reviews so many times, I'm sorry. Every second word is about Defence Review. At some point, our defense industry was one of the best in the world. We had best products, cutting-edge technologies that never existed in the world because of our challenges that we had. Being a career state, we couldn't access things that were readily available elsewhere, so we had to innovate. We had so many engineers, so many scientists, so many people working in the defense industry. The government was pumping so much money in this space. And now, the industry is this small. From this big to this small. What can we do? Go back to those days. I mean, we were reputed for innovation in many ways. However, how can we go back, given the declining defense budget? There's a lot of competition, which he alluded to, within the country and by the multinationals. And we need everybody. We have a challenge just to penetrate or to provide defense products and services to our guys next door in Africa. How do others get it right? Are we doing something wrong? Or are we not doing it? Why, if there's a problem, we get called in, and just like that, we are there. Guess what? As soon as things settle, we don't benefit. We should be mastering we should be commanding, dominating the defense market on African soil. And yet it's not happening. Probably part of the challenge is that there are too many formations, too many groupings, too many alliances. We probably don't know who to talk to, or we're not saying the right things to the right people. Probably those who are our friends today, or well in the morning, who are our friends in the morning, are not so much friendly in the afternoon, because they've spoken to somebody who's going to dump some stuff free of charge. We want to serve. Now, this happens everywhere, not just here in Africa, in Europe as well. If you look at intra-trade and intra-Africa trade, it's around 10%, compared to what's happening in North America, about 40, and Western Europe, about 60. Well, North America, that excludes the Trump factor. Western Europe, it excludes Brexit. But the fact of the matter is, it's much bigger than that. is happening here in Africa. What can we do? There are issues around the implementation of the defense review. The defense review, not because I was part of it, but is reputed to be one of the best policy documents in the world. Well, I have the same about our constitution. Now, if that is the case, why can't we implement it? Maybe the question is, even if we had the resources, if we had all the money in the world, would we have enough skills? Do we have capacity? Is our defense industry ready for that? Is it ready? Do we have that capacity? We know that so many of our engineers have left the country because there's no work. If you don't have toys to play with, go to those who have toys to play. If you're not paying enough, go to those who can pay better. Now, engineers and scientists, I'm told, they like being entertained, with good stuff, innovating all the whole time. If you can't keep them entertained, they will go elsewhere. What can we do? We've already spoken about the issue of transformation. Here was starting. Transformation, capital letter T and a small letter T. Transformation. Is there something like that? Now, we have to look at where is our industry playing. If we are playing on the low end of the technological spectrum, it's okay, but it can't sustain our requirements in the country. We have to transform and get our guys to graduate. Khanyile has already indicated they are playing in the high-tech space, but we want most of our guys to play in that space as well. Now, I don't know if it's the capital letter T transformation I'm talking about there, but there's another transformation, the people. We need to get everybody involved. The cake is small, he said. The cake is small, but still has to be shared by everybody. How do we do that? It's causing a lot of discomfort on those who are already in the space, but it inspires some kind of hope for those who might be stepping in. The barriers of entry into the defense industry are very high. First is complex. Secondly, people just don't want to talk about defense other than killing people. They think of defense as machines for killing people. They don't think of defense as advancement in technology, science, and this and that and that. How do you deal with that? If you look at the defense review, it identifies 4 goals that the SNDF has to pursue. It further identifies 13 tasks under each one of those, or collectively, for all of these 4 goals, things that the Defense Force has to do. Just as a reminder, these are the goals. We want the Defense Force to defend and protect the country as goal number 1, with those tasks under it. We also want it to safeguard the country. It has to promote peace and security. I guess that's the most popular goal that the SNCF is involved in. And the last one, as a developmental state, it has to pursue developmental and other order tasks. It is important. Is the industry geared to do this? If the SNDF is to do these things, it has to rely on local and international industry, defense industry, to pursue those things. It also says for the Defense Force to fully and optimally deliver on its mandate. In other words, doing all of those 4 strategic goals, it will need to gradually move through certain milestones and 5 were identified. The first one was to say, guys, let's arrest the decline. There's block obsolescence in many areas. There are too many people to do the work. There are too many people and too few hands to do the job. I'm going to say that again. We have too many people, either due to age, medical condition, or something, who are not ready to go and do all those tasks that have been identified. There's too much money spent in the HR side vis-a-vis capital and operations. So if you can't invest in new things, then even the old things are going to stop working. So let's arrest that decline. Then the next milestone is to look at rebalancing, reorganizing the defense force. Things like fighters must go to fight. Staff officers must provide staff work. Do not have a staff officer being in charge of people who are to fight. What does he know about fighting? Let's rebalance. Let's reorganize. Let's get the right equipment at the right place. Why can't we get the equipment to move our troops as quickly and as safely as possible? Reorganize. Create a sustainable defense force that can meet current order defense commitments. That was the third milestone. The fourth one, which was chosen by Cabinet, was around enhancing the defense force's capacity to respond to challenges in the strategic environment. If the world, if the countries in Africa responded in time, do you think the genocide would have happened? We hope not. When we are ordered to go and take care of issues in Eastern DRC, and we delay by a day, do you know how many lives will have been lost by that time? Now, if we need to be ready for such order commitment. So, well, the last one is about defending the country. In other words, being able to, if somebody plays dirty, and we should be able to at least engage in a limited war. Now, what we chose as a country and recommended was that let's strive towards milestone 4. In fact, initially, we thought milestone 3 would be sufficient. But the big bosses said, no, guys, you have to be ambitious enough. We're living in a dangerous neighborhood. Let's go for milestone 4. And that's what was recommended, and that's what was adopted. Now, the challenge is, how do you deliver on that? Now, a roadmap was plotted to say, considering the tasks, the goals and tasks that the SNDF needs to pursue, plotted against the milestones. What would be the required resources to deliver on those, on each one of them? Financial, operational units, the works. And this was put together. So, if you look at the bars, the columns, it shows you the different tasks or the different goals. All right, remember, that's why I had to show you those goals and the tasks. Then it shows you the requirements in terms of operational units, HR, budget estimated in billions, the percentage of the GDP and government expenditure. Just for milestone 1, currently, we're currently operating below 1%, isn't it? But to do the arresting of the decline, we will need something around 1.1%. Just to arrest the decline, the current situation. In terms of HR, we'll have to come down to 72,000. But as you move up towards milestone 4, you will have increased your percentage. I mean, you spoke about 2.4%, the 2% plus of GDP. We'll have to move from 1.1 to 2.4. There's a little gadget here. You'll have to move from 1.1 to 2.4. The budget, which is currently at 40, or where we're looking for 40, we should be moving to 88, so we'll have to more than double. That's why the question about, do you have the money? And others are asking, do you have the political will? Now, how can Parliament adopt this document and still be accused of lacking political will? In putting together the defense review, the team went all over the country. They engaged individual stakeholders. This is a true South African product across political lines, geographic lines, urban, rural, everywhere. And this is the product. So political will is there. But do we have sufficient resources for it? Is the defense industry ready and capable to deliver on this? If you had to dump that amount of money, will it be able to use it? That's a question. Now, it also talks about localization. I'm so happy you did the presentation before, because you've already touched on this. Localization says if you are planning to spend that kind of money, how much of it should stay at home? Because if a significant portion of it stays at home, then it means we will have more scientists, we'll have more jobs, we'll have more prosperity. Our industries are going to, our defense industry are going to be kept afloat for much longer. But if we are not ready, that money is going to go out. It says, in terms of localization, we have to look at the different types of companies that are here. What is a local company? What is I must say, as a matter of interest, this is one of the definitions that is really agitating so much of discomfort amongst the multinationals. A local company, a partially local company, a South African company, a partially South African company, a foreign South Africa-based company. And you understand what I'm saying? Those are the different types of companies that we have. And these have implications because, the internet likes this, there are certain capabilities that need to be developed, nurtured by South African companies, certain sovereign capabilities. I know Janelle likes it. You know why? Because it means all of that business, they think must go to that. But there are many other companies in the country that are local, have skills, Where South Africa, where government is supposed to say this can only be handled by a local company, only. And there are some of the items where it is proposed they should be done here. Ammunition. Can you just imagine if you are relying on a foreign country to provide ammunition to you? and at some point you either cross roads with them or with their friends. Do you think they're going to give you ammunition in time, in the right quantities, the right quality? There might be issues there. It doesn't make sense. Certain things have to be produced here at home. It proposed secure command and control communication. Now, if you have to rely on somebody out there where, you know, you're saying you might be visiting that enemy one of these days. By the time you get there, they're already waiting for you. How do they get to know about it? Because the comms are not yours. Somebody is running them. You know, we insisting on the investment in local encryption of communication. Because if we don't control that, we might just have challenges. Also, the information warfare equipment. Well, obviously, when it comes to military off-the-shelf items, especially for complex items or systems that are required in small quantities, that is not a big deal. But the issue is that if you are sourcing your defense material from the local companies, it is helping with reindustrialization. We are helping our companies revitalize, you know, go back to where they used to be. Now, one of the things that the Defense Review came up with was the establishment of what is called the National Defense Industry Council, NDIC, which is purely, largely for policy coordination and developing the defense industry strategy. We're going to get back to that. But what it sought to do was to ensure that the left hand knew what was happening with the right hand. Because in some cases, you will find the state-owned enterprises doing certain things counter to what the national department was doing, all right? Or reversing things that one of the government entities had introduced to support the industry. It was launched last year in March by the minister. Its mandate is to articulate the vision, the national vision on the defense industry. What should be the profile of our defense industry? The needs of the SNCF vis-a-vis what we have in the country. There should be alignment. Okay? It also had to look at the policy and strategy development and actually ensuring that there's integration with the national development plan. It is chaired by the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, but it was delegated to the Secretary for Defense. It comprises the big bosses, the heads of department, directors generals of 11 government departments. That ranges from science and technology to small business to DTI to presidency to, all those big guys. Why? Because there is a view that in some cases, the defense industry is not getting the appropriate support because the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. What other countries do, wherever they go, as part of delegation, first, defense industry representatives. The primary marketer for the defense industry for most countries is their presidents, the ministers, and things like that. That's not happening in the country, in South Africa, until recently, after the establishment of the NDIC. The executive director of the Industry Association is also part of NDIC. So is the CEOs of state-owned enterprises like Armsco, Khanyile, and CSIR. They're also part of it. Now you tell me, who else do you need in this for the industry to support, to benefit? Nobody else. Because there was this accusation, if we could just get everybody, for example, if you look at the application for export permits, all right, those have to be cleared by an interministerial committee. I think it's what's called National Conventional Arms Control, NCACC, National Conventional Arms Control Committee. It is chaired by the minister and the presidency. Okay? Without that green light, you can't do business anywhere outside the country. Now, if that does not meet, it means your order, your contract, might just lapse. Okay? So, but you need them, because anything that involves defense has got serious international diplomatic repercussions. So they need to be in the mix. There are two major key initiatives that the NDIC is busy with. The first one is the establishment, the development of the defense industry strategy and its implementation plan, which you referred to, and then the defense sector charter. If you look at the strategy, which was released, the first draft has already been released for public comment. I think it closed end of September, something like that. It was extended. I've already seen that only a few people who have had a sight of this. When that document was put together, some of the key principles was that it had to inspire the young guy who wants to get into the industry. It had to inspire a lady who is in business and wants to get into the industry. It needed to help spread the cake one way or another, improve transparency on availability, access to all kinds of resources. It had to be transformative. So it is out there. If you have serious inputs to make, you can get hold of Moses anytime, or talk to the AMD, CSIR, Geneva. I mean, it's not as closed as it would be the case with other government documents. Seeing that there is a challenge with the implementation of the defense review, it says to government, guys, for you to be able to do to implement the defense review, there are serious challenges within the defense industry space. And there are basically 4 courses of action that you can pursue. Is either you accept the as-is situation, in which case things will just get worse automatically, and you can't stop it. That which you actually thought was going to be salvaged cannot be salvaged because it will have disappeared. The second one was to say, okay, we know that the issue of underfunding is going to persist. So why don't we look at some way of a structured way of closing down certain capabilities? We salvage that which we can and let go that which we can't. So that will be your planned shutdown. It's just that we make sure that at least the MRO is kept alive. This option, Stabilize and Sustain, which is the one that we are recommending, is about saying, accepting the reality that we can't do everything. We can't keep all the capabilities. Let's look at those that are viable and recover those that are already dying, even if they are not making money. This one is unachievable because it requires a lot of money in order to catapult our defense industry to the next level. The second initiative is the defense sector charter. Now, as you know, for a very long time, unlike other industries, the defense industry has almost like been operating below the radar for a very long time. As much as the country is recognized for its defense industry, not too much focus has been given to the defense industry. And therefore, nothing about it being a sector, recognized as a sector. Okay? So this seeks to do that. Secondly, it seeks to do what they were saying, spreading the cake, transforming the industry. Okay? It was gazetted for comment, and I think it closed yesterday. Closed yesterday. Okay? Unfortunately, the process of sector codes, that is managed at the DTI, so it's not internal to either NDIC or the DOD. So if you've missed that boat, unless they reopen it again, then there might be a bit of a challenge. Obviously, it has all sorts of scorecards. The difference being that it also puts focus on the military veterans. Another initiative, which is not by a national department, but is a joint effort between AMSCO and AMD, is the establishment of a defense industry fund. Now, it is meant to provide accessible finance to the SMMEs and also to help with industry development. There's a whole suite of financial products to be provided. It is not going to be run by AMSCO, nor is it going to be run by AMD. It is not going to be run by government, nor is it going to be run by AMD. It will be run by some entity which we don't know who that is going to be. You will see this coming Sunday. Now, I hope this is not being recorded. There will be a request for information on the Defense Industry Fund this coming Sunday on the Sunday Times. Why I'm saying I hope it's not being recorded, just in case it doesn't happen. But it will be, all right? Now, you know that one of the major barriers of entry into the defense industry is access to funding. Commercial banks shy away from supporting defense contracts, you know, for all sorts of reasons. In some cases, moral things, you know, shareholders say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with defense. But in some cases, this veil of secrecy, there are things that people don't understand in the defense space. You know, so there's some, you know, they just don't understand what's happening in the defense space. So they don't want to support and fund things they don't understand. So that is another initiative, which is very important. Okay? It is supposed to be able to support from your smallest defense industry player to the biggest industry player, both inside the country and outside the country. Short-term and long-term contracts. Okay? So it has to be alive to the defense industry dynamics. Going forward, we're hoping that the strategy will be finalized soon. It's now in its second iteration. The implementation plan will commence soon. It has not commenced as yet. The Defense Sector Charter, during this period, the DTI is going to be consolidating all the inputs, and if there are still serious issues, it will go back to the industry for reconsideration, and then go back to the DTI. If there are no issues, it will go live. It will be launched probably before the end of the year. The industry fund is something that has to happen. It's been talked about for quite a while now. The industry indicated what exactly they require, what type of products they're looking for, and now we're at the stage of the second phase of the process, which is RFI, and then RFP, and then launch. I think that basically covers what I wanted to say. Thank you.